You know, when a major true crime story breaks, it has this strange way of just, well, gripping the entire country.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost involuntary. We all end up completely transfixed.
Right. And for you listening, you probably felt that with the recent, just terrifying case of Nancy Guthrie. I mean, she was taken from her Tucson home.
Yeah, and the media coverage was absolutely wall-to-wall, completely inescapable.
It really was.
You had the doorbell camera footage playing on a loop showing the kidnapper just approaching the front door and, those helicopter shots of law enforcement swarming the property.
And the flowers piling up by her mailbox.
Exactly. It becomes this massive shared public spectacle where everyone feels intimately connected to the geography of the crime.
But so in the cybersecurity research we were doing a deep dive into today, there is a tiny, almost invisible detail about the Guthrie case that just stopped me in my tracks.
It's a very unsettling detail.
It is absolutely chilling. Because when you go to a major search engine and type in Nancy Guthrie home, the algorithm's very first autocomplete suggestion, before it even suggests news or investigation, is literally Nancy Guthrie home value.
Which, I mean, that seems entirely innocent on the surface, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
It's just an algorithmic reflex based on how people normally search for addresses. But in reality, it's a massive, glaring gateway.
Yes, because clicking that home value suggestion leads you straight to real estate websites.
Right.
And before those photos were recently taken down by authorities, anyone, literally anyone with an internet connection, could pull up her exact home address or phone number and crystal clear high-definition photos of the entire inside and outside of her house.
And suddenly you are looking at the flow of the rooms. You are looking at where the heavy doors are placed, the sight lines from the street.
Wow.
You can see exactly where the blind spots are in the main hallway. You get a complete intuitive feel for the physical space and the physical vulnerabilities without ever setting foot on the property. Or even, driving through the neighborhood.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. Today, we're going to look at exactly how our digital footprints are completely exposing our physical homes.
It's so important to understand.
And far more importantly, we are going to walk through the specific actionable steps you can take today to scrub that data and protect yourself. We're pulling from a great source article called How Criminals Can Case Your Home Online. So, okay. Let's unpack this.
Yeah, to really grasp the scale of what we are talking about, I want you to picture something.
Yeah.
Imagine your background shifting to a glowing, high-tech map of the internet.
Okay, I can see that.
Now imagine all those scattered, seemingly unrelated data points out there, like an old shopping profile, a public property record, maybe a few tagged photos. Now imagine those points suddenly morphing and locking together to form a highly detailed, perfect architectural blueprint of your specific suburban neighborhood.
That is wild.
But that is the reality of the intersection we are living in right now. The digital data is directly mapping our physical vulnerabilities.
And I'm going to be clear right out of the gate here. This isn't just theory. We aren't just spinning up some paranoid worst-case scenario just to sound dramatic.
No, not at all.
This is a data-backed reality. The actual tactics criminals use have fundamentally evolved from the days of sitting in a parked car with binoculars.
Oh, yeah, the binoculars are gone.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
For example, detectives with the Riverside, California Police Department have actively arrested burglary suspects. And when they look at the suspects' confiscated smartphones and laptops,
they aren't finding hand-drawn sketches on napkins.
Right. They are finding digital mapping apps and real estate websites right there in the browser history, fully bookmarked and categorized.
The criminals are essentially doing corporate-level due diligence. They are using these digital tools to research precisely which homes to target.
Yeah.
They're calculating the most efficient routes to enter the neighborhood unseen, and even determining exactly where to park their getaway vehicles to avoid the specific angles of neighborhood ring cameras.
And the escalation of this tactic is just staggering, especially when you look at the statistics around violent home invasions tied to cryptocurrency.
The numbers are alarming.
Yeah. Cybersecurity analysts recently highlighted a report citing 65 such incidents already in 2025. That is up roughly 169% in just 6 months. And it nearly triples the 24 incidents we saw in all of 2024.
It's a massive, violent spike. And what's fascinating here is you really have to ask why. Why cryptocurrency?
Why not just cash or jewelry?
Exactly. It comes down to the mechanics of the theft. If someone breaks into your house and steals your television or your car, those are physical items that are difficult to fence and easy to track.
Yeah, they leave a trail.
And even if they force you to transfer money from a traditional bank account, there are fraud departments, holding periods, federal regulations. They can freeze or reverse the wire.
But crypto is different.
Completely different. If they force you to unlock a hardware wallet and transfer Bitcoin to an anonymous address, that transaction is functionally irreversible.
Wow.
There is no bank manager to call. The blockchain simply executes the transfer, and the money is gone forever.
That irreversibility is what makes it so dangerous. And it gets incredibly real when you look at the specific cases driving these numbers.
Yeah, tell them about the Arizona case.
Right. So at the exact same time, police were searching for Nancy Guthrie, just 2 hours away in Scottsdale, Arizona. 2 teens allegedly posed as delivery drivers.
Just walked right up.
Walked right up. They forced their way into a couple's home, duct taped them, and actively searched the house for $66 million in cryptocurrency.
Unbelievable.
They were specifically targeting what the tech world calls whales. So individuals known to hold massive fortunes in digital wallets.
It's brutal. And it highlights how highly targeted these attacks have become based on digital profiling.
But it's not just the billionaires, right? Because financial analysts have noted that even small-time crypto investors are facing these identical attacks.
Oh, absolutely.
If you post online about buying like a few $1,000s worth of Ethereum, you are suddenly on the radar.
Precisely. And while cryptocurrency happens to be the current catalyst driving these high-profile violent attacks, we have to recognize that the underlying tactics are entirely universal.
Right. They can use this for anything.
Exactly. Criminals are utilizing this premeditated digital research to target absolutely any valuable item. Jewelry, art, cash, electronics.
Yeah.
The physical crime, the breaking in, the theft, the assault, is now entirely planned from start to finish in the digital space. The physical execution is just the final brief step of an expensive digital reconnaissance mission.
Which brings us to a powerful analogy from the research that I just haven't been able to shake.
Let's hear it.
Doing nothing about this digital exposure is the exact equivalent of leaving your front door wide open, unlocked, and just handing out a printed, labeled map of your home's interior to anyone who happens to walk down your street.
It sounds hyperbolic when you say it like that, but mechanically it is exactly what is happening.
So how are they actually executing this? Let's transition to the methodology here.
Yeah, step by step.
Right. Researchers break down a surprisingly simple, highly effective 4-step framework that criminals use once they've identified a potential victim.
And it usually starts with finding the physical address and phone number.
Which is distressingly easy. They use data brokers and people search sites.
Yeah, the aggregators.
Exactly. These are massive aggregators that constantly pull from public tax records, old marketing databases, warranty registrations, and data resellers. Your home address is often just one single free search away.
And that is the starting line. Once they tie your digital identity to a physical set of coordinates, they move to step 2, the visual casing phase.
This is where the real estate websites become weaponized.
This is where it gets incredibly invasive. They take that address and plug it into Zillow, Redfin, or Realtor.com.
Right.
And they aren't looking to buy. They are studying the listing photos as a tactical blueprint.
They're analyzing the room layouts to understand the fastest path from the back door to the primary bedroom.
Exactly. They are looking at the types of windows you have. Like, are they old, easily jimmied latches or modern reinforced glass?
They study the lock types on your exterior doors. They spot where your security panels are mounted on the wall.
And some of these real estate listings even feature full, navigable 3D walkthrough tours.
Oh man, those are the worst for this.
They really are. They allow a complete stranger to virtually stand in your hallway and just look around 360 degrees.
And once they understand the interior, they move to step 3, the exterior reconnaissance. They plug that same address into Google Maps and drop down into Street View.
Yeah, the bird's eye view.
Right. They use the overhead satellite imagery to get a complete fly-around of the entire property line. Then from the street-level view, they check the sight lines.
Right. Like, if I stand by your back gate, can the neighbor across the street see me?
Exactly. Which side of your house has motion lights and which side is pitch black at night?
Or exactly how tall is the privacy fence and where does it connect to the garage?
It is a complete tactical assessment. And then the final pillar, step 4 of this casing process, is cross-checking social media.
This is where they connect the dots.
Yeah, they take the architectural knowledge they've just gained and overlay it with your real-time behavior. They are watching for vacation updates to know exactly when the house is empty.
But they're also looking for subtle wealth indicators.
Right, like a post showing off a new expensive watch or a time-lapse video of a home remodeling project.
Because those posts give them an updated, current view of the home's interior that might be years newer than the real estate photos.
They're essentially crowdsourcing their own intelligence gathering, and we are the ones happily supplying the data.
It is a comprehensive system for casing a target without ever having to leave the couch or risk being seen lingering in your neighborhood.
Okay, I have to play the role of the skeptical listener here for a second because I know exactly what people are thinking right now.
Go for it.
But wait, let's say I bought my house over a decade ago. I have no intention of moving, I'm not actively selling it, and there hasn't been a for sale sign in my yard since 2012. Why on earth would my home's interior photos still be sitting on these real estate websites 10 years later?
That is the single most common point of frustration for homeowners. To understand why this happens, we have to look at the underlying mechanics of the real estate internet.
Okay.
Because the entire ecosystem is built on a framework that essentially creates an open house every single day for everyone, forever.
Wait, forever? Why wouldn't they just take the photos down once the transaction clears?
Because websites like Zillow and Redfin don't actually host or own this data independently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they ingest their photos and their property details from a master source feed called the MLS. The MLS is a regional database designed by real estate professionals to syndicate property data as widely as possible to facilitate a sale. It is an incredibly powerful distribution tool.
Sure, that makes sense for selling.
But the system was built for marketing, not privacy. Once the house is sold, that historical data persists in the MLS architecture. It doesn't automatically delete itself.
Oh, it just sits there.
Exactly. So unless someone actively intervenes to sever that connection, those interior photos will just sit there in the database for years, passively feeding into every new real estate app or algorithmic valuation site that pops up.
So the data is basically zombified, which means we have to be the ones to actively intervene and kill it.
Or do.
Let's get into the solutions because the research outlines a highly actionable, roughly 10-minute fix to lock these digital doors and dismantle this visual blueprint for good.
And the logic here is really simple. If you are not actively selling your home, there is absolutely no valid reason for the internet to host a virtual tour of your living room.
None at all. So how do we sever that connection?
Instead of blindly clicking through menus, you have to think about what you are actually doing. You have to prove to these platforms that you are the current physical owner of the property.
Right, so you can assert digital control over its presentation.
Exactly. For the major sites like Zillow or Redfin, this involves creating a profile and navigating to a Claim Your Home section.
And for Realtor.com, they call it the My Home Claiming Workflow.
Yes. You enter your address, verify your identity, sometimes by answering questions about public records, and once the system recognizes you as the owner, an entirely new set of privacy toggles unlocks.
You essentially gain administrative rights to your own digital footprint.
Exactly. Once you have those admin rights, you can navigate to the property details and simply select the option to hide or remove the listing photos. It pulls them from public view instantly.
That's amazing.
The process is remarkably similar across all the major consumer real estate platforms. You verify ownership, you flip the switch, and the virtual tour is closed.
But we have to return to the mechanics of that MLS feed we discussed a moment ago.
Right. Yes, this is a crucial nuance, because these consumer sites constantly ingest fresh data from the MLS API.
So what does that mean for the homeowner?
It means you might successfully claim your home and delete your photos on a Monday, only to find them mysteriously repopulating a few months later because the master source feed pushed an update.
Oh, that would be incredibly maddening.
Yeah.
So how do you stop the source feed?
You have to go to the root. The pro tip here, the most effective move, is to contact the real estate agent who originally listed the house when you bought it.
Ah, right.
You ask them to remove the interior photos or at least heavily restrict their syndication distribution directly within the regional MLS system itself.
Because they have the access.
Right. Real estate agents have the credentials to alter that master database. Once the photos are killed at the source, the feeder sites will eventually sync up and the images will disappear permanently.
That makes total sense.
Uh-huh.
Okay, those steps are great for locking down the interior layout, but here's where it gets really interesting. What about the outside of the house?
Yeah, the exterior casing.
Right. We talked about criminals using Google Maps for that. Well, the cybersecurity experts detail a street view trick that I would bet the vast majority of people don't even know exists.
It is a surprisingly powerful tool, hidden right in plain sight.
Seriously, if you go to Google Maps on a desktop computer, search your own address, and drop that little yellow pigment icon down onto the street, you are suddenly looking directly at the front of your house.
Right.
But if you look closely down in the bottom right corner of the screen, there is a tiny, almost microscopic link that says, "Report a problem."
Most people never notice it.
Never. When you click that, it brings up a specialized interface. It gives you a red box that you can position directly over your house in the image. You simply select the option to request blurring for my home, fill out a quick reason, and hit submit.
And then
Within a few days, your house becomes a blurred-out anomaly on the street.
it's fantastic. But before anyone rushes to do this raises an important question regarding permanence. We need to discuss the underlying mechanism of how Google handles these requests.
Okay, what's the warning here?
When you request that Google blur your home on Street View, they don't just put a digital filter over the image that they can easily switch off later.
Oh, they don't.
No. To comply with global privacy standards, they fundamentally alter the root image file on their servers. The blurring is effectively permanent. It is incredibly difficult and most of the time mathematically impossible to reverse it.
Wow. So you really need to be precise.
Absolutely. Before you click submit, you must double check that the red targeting box is perfectly cleanly positioned over your property alone.
Right?
Because if you are sloppy and accidentally cover half of your neighbor's house or obscure a massive chunk of the public street, you are permanently vandalizing the digital map for the people around you.
That is a critical warning.
Okay.
So we've claimed our home to hide the listing photos, we've contacted the agent to scrub the MLS, and we've permanently blurred the street view. The visual casing avenues are officially closed.
They are.
But the research points at a hard truth here. Removing real estate photos doesn't actually solve the deeper foundational privacy problem.
It doesn't, because the core vulnerability, your address and your phone number, is still just a simple search query away.
Yeah?
It's deeply embedded and tied to your name in dozens of corporate databases.
So we are entering the deeper war now, the data broker landscape, and the reality of what analysts call the whack-a-mole game.
It's a relentless game.
To combat this, the research suggests we first need to change our behavior to reduce what they call the broadcast.
Right, the broadcast. That's simply the actionable intelligence you voluntarily, often unwittingly, hand over to the public sphere.
And the rules for stopping the broadcast are simple, but they run completely counter to how we use social media today.
Totally backwards to what we're used to.
It means delaying your posts. Don't post those beach photos while you are actually sitting on the beach.
Yeah.
Wait until you are safely back home to upload the album. It means being hyper-aware of your background. Avoid showing the front of your house, unique street signs, or your specific mailbox numbers in your videos, and yet be incredibly careful with innocent home tour or DIY renovation content.
That is a massive vulnerability. People don't realize what they are revealing.
Exactly. A quick, fun TikTok video showing off a newly installed kitchen island can inadvertently reveal the entire layout of your first floor.
Yeah.
Or worse, the camera pans and accidentally captures a cryptocurrency hardware wallet sitting on a desk, a heavy floor safe in the closet, or an expensive piece of artwork in the background.
But the philosophy here isn't to become a privacy monk or just total recluse hiding from the world entirely.
Right.
You just need to stop volunteering actionable, high-value intelligence to people who might be actively looking for a target.
Make them work for it. But then we have to deal with the data brokers themselves.
Yeah, the aggregators again.
If your information is already circulating out there, doing the removal manually across hundreds of shadowy websites is a massive soul-crushing grind.
It's a full-time job.
So the research outlines 4 distinct philosophies for using data removal services, depending on your specific needs.
Because the industry of data removal has become just as complex as the industry of data brokering itself.
Totally. So first, you have the automation approach.
Concogni.
Yes, services like Incogni. They leverage legal frameworks like the GDPR in Europe or the CCPA in California to force compliance. They send massive automated waves of removal requests, constantly pinging the brokers with legally binding demands.
And their standout mechanism is maintaining a suppression list.
Right.
That list actively tells these brokers not to re-ingest your data once it's been deleted.
Then you have the evidence seeker approach, utilized by companies like Optory.
I like this one.
Yeah, they use a humans plus machines approach because they understand that consumers are skeptical of automated promises. So they provide an exposure report with actual before and after screenshots.
Giving you visual, undeniable proof that your listing is truly gone from a specific database.
Exactly. The third philosophy targets the corporate footprint.
Services like Privacy Hawk go beyond the sketchy, obscure data brokers. They actually target the mainstream corporate databases of thousands of companies you interact with every day.
Like retailers, delivery apps, streaming services.
Right. With your permission, they scan your inbox to analyze who is harvesting your data
Hmm.
and automatically send do not sell requests to those specific corporations. They even give you a privacy score from 300 to 850, kind of like a credit score.
And finally, there is the human touch approach championed by older services like Delete Me.
Because sometimes you just need a real person.
Exactly. They recognize that while AI and automation can handle the easy, standardized removals, some data brokers purposefully make their opt-out processes incredibly confusing and tedious.
Yeah, they hide the buttons.
So Delete Me employs real human privacy experts to physically call and email over 750 brokers, fighting through the bureaucratic friction to ensure the truly stubborn records are actually deleted. But even with all these different approaches, the analysts are brutally honest. They explicitly compare this entire process to a game of whack-a-mole.
It really is.
You spend hours or pay a service to delete your data from one site, and the underlying algorithm just repopulates it on another site a week later. It never truly stops.
No, it doesn't.
So I have to ask, if the data just keeps popping back up and even paying for outsourcing doesn't guarantee permanent removal, what does this actually mean for the listener? Is all this effort even worth it?
That is the core philosophical tension of modern digital life right there. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, synthesizing everything we've discussed today, the conclusion is actually very empowering.
Really? How so?
The goal is not to achieve perfect invisibility. You aren't going to erase yourself from the modern world. The true objective here is simply friction.
Friction.
You want to make yourself a significantly harder target than the next person. Criminals, by their very nature, are looking for the path of least resistance.
Right, they want an easy score.
Exactly. If your house has no interior photos online, a blurred street view, and your home address requires digging past the first 5 pages of a data broker search, they are highly likely to just get frustrated and move on to an easier target.
Ah, I love that. You weren't building an impenetrable fortress. You were just putting heavy deadbolts on your digital doors.
Exactly. You are making the casing process incredibly tedious instead of effortless.
Wow. Okay, to quickly recap the journey of this deep dive today, we started by looking at the chilling reality of how modern criminals have evolved. They are using the real estate internet, mapping apps, and data breakers to comprehensively case your home, your layout, and your vulnerabilities from their couches in a matter of minutes.
But we also covered the fixes.
Right? We walked through the highly empowering steps you can take today. You can prove ownership to scrub your interior photos. You can contact your old agent to kill the MLS source feed. You can permanently blur your home on Google Street View. And you can leverage legal frameworks and behavioral changes to aggressively shrink your digital footprint.
It's all about shifting your posture from being passively exposed to actively managed.
And here's a direct call to action for you listening right now. If you or a friend or a family member bought a home anytime in the last decade, odds are those listing photos are still sitting on long right now, providing total strangers with a high-definition tour of your entry points and bedrooms.
It's true.
Take a few minutes this weekend to secure your digital front door. And please, share these strategies with the people you care about so they can do the exact same thing.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on the trajectory of the technology we've been discussing.
Okay.
We talked about how tedious this game of whack-a-mole is and how creating friction is our best defense. But what happens to that friction in the next 5 years?
Oh, man.
Imagine a near future where next-generation AI doesn't just display search results, but instantly synthesizes them.
Synthesizes them how?
What happens when an AI can scrape the old deleted MLS photos from an archive, combine them with the reflection seen in a single Instagram post of your dog by the window, cross-reference the satellite imagery of your roof, and instantly generate a fully navigable 3D virtual reality model of your home's interior,
That is terrifying.
complete with a probability map of exactly where your valuables are likely kept?
Wow.
If artificial intelligence eventually removes all the friction from data synthesis, turning scattered fragments into a holistic master key, is true privacy even conceptually possible anymore? Or will the physical architecture of our actual neighborhoods have to fundamentally change to adapt to a world where the walls are virtually transparent?
That is an incredibly heavy, fascinating thought. If the digital friction disappears, the physical world just has to adapt. We've shown you how to pick up that printed map off the front lawn and lock that front door today, but the neighborhood is definitely changing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay safe and stay aware.